So I think we now are recording. Let me go back to the screen share. So thank you everyone for coming today. I want to talk a little bit more about the first pillar, which is clarify the path. And it was interesting to hear our colleagues from Laramie County Community College speak a little bit about this process. I'm sorry that I'm dating myself a little bit with the title of the presentation and the picture. I recognize many of you are probably too young to remember the Wizard of Oz and the reference here, but I still like to indulge my my oldness now that I have. So when we talk about, so first I do want to see, try one of the word map, word cloud exercises. So hopefully everybody can see the prompt as well as the web page and the code for us to do a word cloud. But just as we talked a little bit about yesterday, trying to understand where people are in their understanding of pathways. When we talk a lot about clarifying the path, we've started at HACC by looking at academic program maps. So for those who are willing to jump on their phone or their computer, I'll switch out of the PowerPoint and show the word cloud. But just curious for what people would say when they hear about the academic maps and what comes to mind. And hopefully people are able to access the site easily enough. Everybody seeing what's coming up okay? It's interesting just as you're watching this, as I am, to see a number of themes that seem to pop up related to some structure, the fact that we're trying to provide a bit of a blueprint for students, but also at the same time, the fact that confusing is coming up as one of the top themes. And I don't know if anybody is willing to unmute themselves who might have mentioned about confusion or confusing, is willing to share a little bit more on that. I'm sorry, it's going to be difficult for me to manage the chat. So
I put in confusing, Mike. This is Catherine Frost.
Yeah.
Just for me, like I advise business administration, but I don't know anything about business administration. And so there's a lot of, I guess the courses, the way the program maps are now that like, well, should a student take this business class first or that one, like marketing or management and there's a lot of like kind of subtleties that don't really get explained. So I find it confusing.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Catherine. Yeah, I think that's a common experience for advisors, if I'm being completely honest. Many of you who particularly are advising outside of the home area, as well as for students. So again, thank you. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, no, I just wanted to say that this is Crystal Renzo, and I just wanted to second what Catherine was saying, because I also advise business, and that is not my discipline. And you know, on the one hand, that is sort of an advantage, because when I look at it, I can see how a student coming into it would be totally befuddled, and it would be so intimidating to them, and they look to us to be sort of the voice of reason. But I feel very uncomfortable because I'm afraid sometimes, because I'm not sure what to tell them. And so, I think that, by us being able to identify where it's confusing for us, it'll be better for us to articulate it to the students. So I think that on our side, I think we need to be able to really maybe give feedback, to the programs, the departments that we advise, and say, look, from our perspective, this is where it is confusing to us, and how can we better communicate that to our students?
Thank you,
As I
Crystal.
said in the chat in the other session, I think faculty frequently feel like they don't know quite the process. I would love to have a map that just said, here's what these students do from the time they try to start the college to, they get to you as an advisee, so that you would have some idea. And I sure wish math would just have a straight line till we get to college algebra, because trying to parse out what is going on even now on those charts is difficult. As I was trying to do that for a student this semester who actually took the ACT, had not taken any of the entrance exams for math. I did like the idea about Laramie saying, try it. I've always thought that, try it. If you can do it, then great, just move right on.
Thank you, Jody. I had a little video with a brief overview related to the pathways, but I think I'll skip that in the interest of time. And hopefully the other sessions we've had have given you a bit of an overview of pathways and how the maps would fit in. But just as some of you are expressing, from the student perspective, and this has been touched on a few times already in week 0, just how confusing it is to start a program at HACC or really any community college. And I appreciate the point from the folks from Laramie about how maybe the system was developed in a way that really didn't account for the lives and diversity of our student body. But I will switch, and I have about a minute clip from a student that I just want to share, which talks a little bit about the benefits of having a clear plan when you start a program.
So to me, a guided pathway means, well, I feel like it's a lifesaver, really, because honestly, I did not know what to do. Like, I just thought I can just pick classes that I need to take and just try to get through them as quick as I can, but not really. It's like, for me, the way my system was set up was like in the fall, I would do like an English class, a math class, maybe a science. And then in the spring, I would do my humanities classes or like a history class. And with the guided pathway, that really helped me out.
Well, yeah, again, it's, I think it was Catherine who mentioned just sometimes not knowing what progression to take courses. And, I'm sure all of you who've advised, you may reflect upon the times that you've had to spend quite a bit of your advising session just thinking about, okay, what courses to take in what order, and being able to have a plan that you feel comfortable sharing with students to say, yes, this is the order. And also, again, as was also mentioned, it might have been Crystal, the ability to have feedback to programs as well, to relay information that you're hearing from students. So real quick, I think as we look at academic program maps, what we're looking at, and there's 2 slides that would cover the desired components, the things we would like to have in these maps. Some of these are hopefully obvious, and things that we've really been working on. As I mentioned yesterday, a lot of this is not new. or it's not a new initiative in terms of some of the work that's been done. Of course, we've thought about program descriptions. Of course, we think about some of the career options and connections that our programs align with. And as I mentioned yesterday as well, we have Form A's where we have to put together a sequence of courses that would demonstrate how students could complete within 2 years. So those are all things that we're trying to incorporate into the maps. Additionally, it's also important to know which courses are important to take at critical times so that students are able to progress on time. And within our maps, and I'll show them to you here in a second, we call those milestone courses that obviously if you're a chemistry major, for example, it's important that you start with Chem 101 as part of your progression because you need to take ultimately 4 chemistry courses. And so we would consider Chem 101 a milestone course as it would be for our biology program. So again, it's important for that to be graphically represented in a way that's as easy as possible for students to see and for faculty and other advisors to see. There may be other milestones that are important within a program. I can think of our education programs where if you're interested in becoming a teacher, there's a point where you have to take a standardized exam. I think it's called the PAPA, if I'm not mistaken, and that's something you should take around 45 credits in the program. So again, it's important for everyone to know when those milestones are, and also if there's opportunities for milestones or credentials to earn within a program. So there are some of our programs where you may be able to get an industry recognized certificate as part of a program, and being able to help students see that is important as well. And the last point, obviously, transfer information could be critical for many of our programs. So as I mentioned yesterday, we're up to around 30 maps that have been created so far. These were worked on last year, primarily through the chairs who then worked with faculty. And I want to emphasize that what we have currently, I'm calling them versions of 1.0, because this really is a starting point. There's some programs that haven't had maps created yet. Others do have maps created, but you may find that there's further work that needs to be done and will help people adapt as well as update these maps. So again, just watching the clock a little bit, I'll select the first one, which is one from my school, Wellness and Health Promotion. And just to give you a sense of how you would find where these maps are. So this is our main program webpage for Wellness and Health Promotion. And if you go down to the 4th link, what classes will I take? When you open that, since I knew that this one has a map that's presented, you can see the last bullet would include the academic map. And know that while the maps do include some of the information that would be in the program guide, as well as the advising check sheet, those elements are still there on the web page. So again, I think part of the reason for having the maps is to present things in a different way that are hopefully as user-friendly for students as possible. So if I click on this real quick and open up the map, so you can see this is the general template that's been developed by the college for our maps. So we want them to have a consistent look regardless of the program. And as you look at the map, hopefully you'll see that we are focusing, unlike we did in the catalog and the Form A, not only on the courses in the sequence, but also the campuses and or virtual learning where these courses are going to be offered. We're also trying to point out those milestone courses in the middle. So for Wellness and Health Promotion, as you might expect, the 101 course in the major is something we want to prioritize to take in that first semester. And again, this is hopefully a way to clarify for folks, this is, you know, what we're looking for students to take. There's also elements where you can tell the program faculty have been intentional about some of the choices of general education courses, and that is perfectly appropriate. So in this case, it was important to, from the perspective of the program outcomes, to highlight a course like general psychology as the social behavioral science. Yeah, Doreen, see your hand up.
If you want to make me co-host, I can help kind of monitor things for you, just
Okay,
like audio and stuff. So if you make me co-host, I'm happy to help with that. So you
Okay.
can keep doing your thing.
about
Thank you.
okay, thank you, Doreen, appreciate that. So yeah, again, there's some intentionality in terms of sometimes from a program perspective, which course we want to take when it comes to general education. As you can see in semester.
Sorry, Mike.
That's okay. There's intentionality in statistics being the course that would satisfy the math requirement. And then further down, you can see that we do put some advising notes similar to what would be on the advising check sheet. This is a program that includes summer courses as part of the progression. So I thought that was an interesting thing to show as well, that these maps can incorporate summer courses and even winter, although they're not graphically represented here. And then you can see as well, this is a program that has two different options. And so this is a way of trying to present those options, and whether it's as elegant as it could be or not, you know, we could have discussions about that. But again, we're trying to synthesize a lot of information into one place and do so in a way that hopefully allows students to see what they need to. And then at the bottom, there's also some text information which speaks to some of the career information. So again, this is just one example of how a map can look like, and this will be something that will be adapted and refined as we go along. And then again, if you indulge me for a second to pop over to my HACC, I just wanted to show people, instead of going major by major through the web pages, this is in my HACC right on the home page under quick links. The curriculum management tab on the left, you'll see that there's an academic program maps page, which when you click on, will take you to a Google Drive by school, which will then give you a quick glance as to which programs have maps currently available. So liberal arts is an area that's done a lot of work. So you can see, for example, that there are quite a few in that area that have been created and are published. So moving back real quickly to the PowerPoint side of things, I also want to stress that a critical element of clarifying the path and these maps is program assessment. And again, this is something that is taking place already. But as I mentioned yesterday, when we conceive of our pathways by starting with the end in mind, it really is critical for everyone to review their program outcomes and competencies, because that is ultimately what we're trying to have students graduate with. What are those sets of skills, knowledge areas, abilities that they're going to gain from being in our programs? So if sometimes we may be guilty of not always giving the program outcomes as much attention as they need, but really our pathways work, our clarifying the path work rests upon these strong program outcomes and knowing what are our students leaving us with. And that feeds back into understanding, we could construct programs any number of ways, any number of combinations of courses, But this work around program assessment does help us understand what is the best path to help a student who's interested in business be able to get the skills and abilities they need to succeed in that area. So that's where it's important, not just in this process of thinking of program maps. Yeah, we're trying to spell out which courses to take when, but at the same time, understand the why of the courses being there. And again, as I mentioned with the Wellness and Health Promotion Program, faculty thought about there's something about a Psychology 101 course which is going to be important for a program graduate in wellness and health promotion. And that's something that then can be explained to the student. This is why you're taking psychology instead of anthropology or history or geography, whatever it may be when it's filling that general education area. And as you might expect, it's, yeah. Thanks, Doreen.
So, nope. So just some comments. So Matthew was saying that some take summer, others don't, and that we should still have part-time maps as well. Maybe once all programs are mapped out full-time for summer. Christine is saying, does the program map replace the curriculum check sheets that the advising office used, or will the curriculum check sheets remain?
Well, I think that there'll be a taking the last question first, that there'll be a transition point working with the advising office where a lot of the tools will change. These maps are feeding into a larger project that Dr. Appiah-Patti mentioned yesterday, where we're implementing a new software tool called DegreeWorks, which essentially will replace the CAP reports that many of you have been familiar with before. But that's really, there's going to be a migration taking place where DegreeWorks will become a foundational piece of the advising process. And frankly, there'll be a transition out of some of the old processes, and then Navigate's going to sit alongside this as another tool that will be front and center with this process.
And Mike Marie was asking, will a student starting in developmental education still receive these maps their first semester? So no map will list DE courses? That's
correct. And it's, there's pros and cons to that approach, but I think we go back to how daunting it can be to see a map or to see a program progression laid out that may be 3 or 4 years, even if there's some accuracy to that. So I think the importance here is to reference the work that our English and math faculty have done to streamline the pathways in developmental in a way that hopefully allows students to still be able to get on the map as quickly as possible, or to at least understand, okay, if in the first semester it's saying I should take Math 103 for my program, they may know that, okay, as a practical selection, I'll need to take the math course that I place into or would be relevant to me first. So maybe 103 isn't the first semester, but at least I know, okay, I'm registered for Math 91 and know that that would be the course I take, and then move into the college level course in a subsequent semester. So there's always going to be some degree of variation around the course selection. But at the same time, these maps hopefully narrow the range of options that students are able to take and be much more intentional about it.
And Wendy was asking, why wouldn't all this be in DegreeWorks?
Well, it will be. It's just, it's going to take some time to code everything, frankly, into the software package. So that's a process that's underway. We're currently looking to start with a small number of programs this academic year as our first champion programs within DegreeWorks. And I think there may be some additional information tomorrow from Dr. Appiah-Patti and her team on what that'll look like. But essentially, we're going to take 6 of the largest enrolled majors at the college, things like business administration, criminal justice, biology, and those will be the first programs that will ultimately migrate into degree works and start the process. So it's going to take time, as mentioned by our colleagues from Laramie. This is not something that's going to happen overnight. And we recognize that last year in particular was a rough year because of the pandemic on so many levels. And that's why we wanted to establish some momentum by putting together some initial maps. But as I said, these are version 1.0s and can change and will need to change. And changing them based on program assessment is going to be important.
All right, keep going.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Doreen. And just as we wrap up here, understand that there's additional work that all faculty will want to be engaged with around this clarify the path. And there's still additional mapping that needs to be done. I think our selective admission programs are one of our more challenging areas in terms of mapping everything out, but we still need to provide those clear maps for those students as well. As mentioned by our colleagues from Laramie as well, we chose to focus intentionally on creating maps around single programs first, because we need them. And that confusion among students is still there. But we have to look more broadly that we have a lot of undecided students, a lot of students who may need our help in narrowing down their area of focus. And so having the ability to have maps related to broader careers and not just programs is something we'll want to look at further. There's been a lot of discussion already about how our FYS courses can fit into the process, particularly as we look at some of the career exploration that's absolutely critical as part of Pathways. And as I mentioned before, these maps are items that are going to be intricately connected to our program reviews as well as our Form A changes. So that's one thing I want to try to emphasize again to all of you, that this may seem like it's a lot. And on the one hand it is, but at the same time, I can honestly say it's not necessarily a new initiative in terms of doing things completely new. There's been prior conversation in the creation of programs around what courses should be a part of these programs and what sequence they should be taken. So this is just a different way of bringing that kind of focus together. And our program assessment, particularly around those outcomes, is something that is integral to our work academically as well. So again, this is just feeding into it. So I really want to encourage everyone to think of this as not necessarily a new initiative with a whole bunch of new tasks associated with it. It's really repurposing some of the things we're already doing in ways that will hopefully be more efficient and then allow us to work to improve our success rates at the program level. So.
And Mike, we have one last question
Okay.
for you. And as you said, we want to make sure everyone gets a break.
Yeah.
Hedl was saying that, 70% of students need Deb Ed. So the question is, what interventions are in place for this? So she was saying she suggests at least listing the DE classes somewhere, as the check sheets do.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for that. And that was really the last slide, was just some of that feedback and questions. So that's, again, this is an organic, dynamic process where we need that feedback as people are looking at these topics, and to make the maps better as the starting point. But that's where I encourage everyone to continue to listen to the other sessions during week 0. Because the pieces, particularly in pillars 2 and 3, will talk more about what the interventions are, what the supports are for students, whether they're in the developmental sequence or not, what kind of career services help will be there, learning commons help. So again, I think we're presenting these in their individual pillars, but at the same time, there is that interrelationship and mutual support that'll be provided. So hopefully some of those things you'll have greater clarity on as you go through some more of the sessions later today and certainly tomorrow.
All right. And Wendy's asking, is there a deadline for getting all the maps submitted?
Well, in a sense, yes, we have the aspiration of having all of our programs with the map. So being able to do so in as timely a way as possible, obviously sometime during this academic year would be ideal, if not sooner, because the sooner we have maps, the sooner we're able to migrate some things into degree works as well. But again, we know that it's going to take some discussion, and there's real questions about how to present some of these things so it's as helpful to students as possible.
All right. So there's thank yous, and Hedel was just saying, when did we begin implementing guided pathways?
Well, we started some of the pre-work last year, again, with some of the models, with determining that we'll go with products like DegreeWorks, but really with this week 0 event, as well as the work to come, we're really just starting to implement the whole process now. Hence, a lot of this information this week.
All right, thank you. And there's a conversation about we need to shift our culture to be successful, guided pathways. And Robert is sharing about, will you offer sequence data in the map?
I guess, yeah, I might need to see a specific example about that, but I would think that's part of the goal of this, that if there are sequences, and I didn't get a chance to note too that that's also where the Minimester project can come in with some of the programs and how courses are sequenced and how that can fit into these maps as well. So
Mike's so good. You answered Wendy's question before it got in the chat.
Yeah. So again, I apologize. I may not have answered the sequence question, but in the abstract, absolutely, that's something we want to be trying to accomplish.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. So you'll be hearing more from Mike throughout the semester about program maps. So thank you. And thank you, Mike.
No, thank you, Doreen, for jumping in. And you can tell I'm not teaching a lot of classes right now to manage all of the different tools. So I appreciate your help. I appreciate everyone's attention. And I think our next session is 10:45. So 10 minutes break, not too bad.
Thank you.